All right, okay, yesterday when I was talking on that video, and here's a forewarning. No telling where it is going to go. I don't know, just feel like talking, yammering, whatever. So, yesterday I mentioned watching the night sky, having a thought about the lightning one night during a rainstorm. So that's the title for this. So I can start there because I never went back to that. I was talking about the whole nature thing, getting in touch with nature and thinking about things differently and this and that. Well, I was thinking about lightning and thunder and the fact that the way it's taught to be, well, it's taught as two separate things when really it's the same thing. It goes back to the energy thing. The thunder is the lightning because without the lightning, there would be no thunder. So the lightning, all that is, why is there lightning? This word lightning. Well, I don't know all the ins and outs, but an excitation of molecules in line that build up enough potential energy to a point to where a connection is made positive and negative to where that energy can then discharge as a lightning bolt, as a flash of energy in the sky. That release, that discharge of energy, visual light, the light energy instantly creates sound energy, which then we receive later as thunder. Later, I mean, as the light and the sound both travel through this medium of air that we breathe at different rates of speed, we instantly see the light, yet we hear the thunder later, which is where you get the things like counting the seconds, the flash to bang, the time from visual light to sound reported to ear, roughly 300 meters per second. So you can roughly work out distances. Is that right? Might have had a more accurate number in the past when I was a little bit more accurate with numbers like that, but that's roughly something like that. But still, something natural like that, natural energy, lightning, that creates the sound of thunder, but yet it's the same thing. If the flash of light never occurred, the sound would not have occurred either. So it's cause and effect. Again, the cause, the energy, the lightning produces the effect of thunder, yet it's the same thing. It's not separate. Yet it's taught separately as two different concepts of the same thing. And from there, you can see how those concepts from light and sound, which is all the same, it's energy traveling through the same medium, just in different forms, but at the same energy in different ways, different waves and vibrations of that same energy. But it's taught into such compartmentalized focal points and pieces due to different perceptions and the way it's taught. Later, the mind starts to perceive all these things as totally separate, distinct, different things in nature when no, there's so many things in nature that are all the same thing happening at the same time that have been compartmentalized and labeled into all these different things that are just misunderstood because the mind has broken them apart into all these different aspects of sight, sound, etc., 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 etc. Where was I going? Oh, so what I was relating with that thought was how that related inward as I considered the lightning. How could I translate that natural phenomenon I was watching and seeing and considering to the inside, to the microcosm, so to speak, the as above, so below? Well, what about below, inside here? What's going on? And to me, it made sense that those sparks of thought were indeed akin to a flash of lightning in the sky. Flash, little tiny flash every time there was a thought. That flash, to relate that to something, to the thunder, the creation of that thought, that spark of thought, creates thunder within. If that spark of thought is dark or terrifying or scary or fearful, well, the thunder that resonates down the spine, through the heart, through the guts, sometimes activating the adrenal glands down there, getting ready, get set for fight or flight. Well, it's because that's the thunder reverberating from that spark. Just like you hear the thunder crash after a huge stroke of lightning and you feel it deep inside. Boom! Same thing happens on the microcosmic scale inside from these thoughts sparking and flashing. They can cause very real effects of thunder reverberating throughout the body that create very, very real physiological effects that folk can feel. I remember such things from watching movies and things where I was drawn into the screen and all the flashy colors and loud sounds and this and that. And then boom, like something would happen and be like, whoa, I could feel that. Wow. Where all it was the mind. The mind was tricking me because my perception was being tricked into thinking I was feeling something that wasn't really happening. And that way, that looking at things and then feeling that fear, getting that adrenal pump going in an unnatural fashion over and over and over, that overstimulation over and over and over, really, really desensitizes a person to their natural perception of things in the world around them. It really does. And then in that, it creates almost an addictive behavior of wanting to repeat that feeling because it gets harder and harder to find. Because as time goes on, the mind becomes more and more scattered and crazy with these sparks of thought going off, to where after a while, it's kind of just this cascading effect of lightning storms that the brain can't make sense of and feelings that the body can't make sense of. And I don't know. And then you go through like this awakening type process, like I went through, where everything crashes and you go, oh shit, that's a lot of mind control and stuff. Better fix this. What's going on? Not just mind control, but mind, body, spirit control, spirit suppression, suppression of thought, suppression of feeling. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, I just kind of got off into that a bit whatever. But yeah, that's how I was relating those from the out there to the in here and the feeling in here and throughout here. And I don't know. It made me lend more weight, I guess, so to speak, to my thoughts. To when I really, really started to feel the effects of thoughts and the feelings inside, that came from that type of stuff. It's not, yeah, they're like oh, I don't know where to go from here.
Yeah, me neither.
That's all I kind of wanted to relate though with the thunder and lightning. Yeah, it was being the same thing, part of the same thing, and just relating to that. Thunder and lightning. So just to go with that, looking at the rainstorm, we were actually talking about, my wife and I talking about, oh, it sounds like, well, there's some stuff going on, like up there, some what's going on, some stuff's being sorted out. Kind of like some Odin Thor type stuff. It was kind of what the mind was saying. It was kind of funny. Thing about that though, the uh, Odin. So Odin would be, he was the lightning, right? The All Father. So that's the divine, the divine masculine. Odin's wife. I don't remember that name. I'm not all up to date on all the names and this and that and the other or whatever. But she would be the divine feminine, of course, and then Thor, the god of thunder, of course, because thunder follows the lightning, though it's the same thing. But Thor represents the sun, of course, well, then the sun, you know what I mean? And then Loki represents, of course, the adversary in that sphere of mythology, belief, religion. I don't know what you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. Those stories. But yeah, that and that too to me, that all relates to all the others in some form or fashion. Where yeah, I won't go through them all, but you can look at any of them. It's all the same. It's all the same things playing out. There's a divine masculine, a divine feminine, and then there's the physical manifestation of the child, and then an adversary figure or a death figure type of thing, or whatever you want to look at it as the mischievous carnal nature, materialistic nature of that aspect of things. Greed, fear, want, uh, you know, all those, all that stuff. Yeah, now I don't know where to go from here now. But yeah, I just figured that. I don't know. Don't know where to go now. What were we talking about right before this? I don't even remember now. We were talking about
Your phone? That's what I was talking about. You trying to operate technology.
oh yeah,
Yeah,
oh yeah,
yeah.
my trying to operate technology. Oh, when I first started this whole thing, when I could tell something huge was happening to me, and that there was indeed much more. I started recording myself early right away because I knew something real big was going on. I just didn't know what was happening. But whoa, some of that stuff when the mind control melted, so to speak. And I just felt like, boy, I had to say all kinds of stuff while I tried to figure out stuff. I recorded some really funny stuff. I attempted to actually, not funny, kind of sad actually, to really look at it for what it is. And it was a damn grown ass adult that was running around just trying to get answers for something, like a damn little kid, because that's what I was. Like there's one video I recorded in in the town I grew up in, because coming back to where I grew up helped me kind of move forward. But so this was in Muskegon, Michigan. This was like, I don't know. It was a couple winters ago type of time. It was the fall, I think, actually, before winter. So it was a couple years back, whatever. But yeah, there's one I titled the video like can a mother ever get some Jesus or something like that, because I really wanted to talk to someone in a church, a priest or somebody, a member of the clergy or whatever, some official from that group, because I really had some serious questions about religion in general at the time. And this was before so and all that was clear to me was what a setup was going on. And especially when I went to three different churches there on foot from a few different city blocks there, where there used to be a mall I used to go to when I was a kid and a teenager. I used to go down to the mall, play video games, but which is gone now. But that's not the point. It was just walking around that area and checking like three different churches, checking the doors, actually knocking on the door, going around side, just to see, and they were all locked. Actually, at the last church I was actually parked by on my way back out. I couldn't find anybody else. But I was recording myself looking, and I had these serious questions because it's not that it's like I was looking for a debate, is what it was. Because I wanted some answers because I saw how much just how they weren't there to help in my view, and I really wanted answers to the contrary. Really, I wanted somebody to say, no, you're looking at it wrong. This is what something is what I was trying to hold on to, something. And that, for me, that same thing wasn't just for religion, it was for the education system I grew up in and went through. It was for it was for this country, which I love. I love this country. I love the people, the folk in it, because I love the life in general, period. But and that's why I joined the army. You know, right out of high school, I wanted to go do something different. I wanted to go do something to help protect, and something. And so I was playing out that movie version of my head, kind of. So that was another one I held on to, the the government thing, which I'm still there. There's a lot of things going on right now with looks like a lot of things trying to be cleaned up all at once and fixed. And I really, really, really hope that's what the case is, because it seems like that's what I'm watching. But I don't know what I'm watching. I have no idea what folks have planned out there. I mean, I know there's all kinds of stuff in different groups of people that operate in echelons above reality, so to speak, or at least above the reality I live in here with everybody else, it seems. So I really don't know. But yeah, anyway, yeah, those doors were locked. Then the last church I checked, yeah, there was somebody standing outside. He was kind of like the janitor type, groundskeeper type. And he said, yeah, there was no one inside for me to come talk to. And he was the only one there. So yeah, so I gave up on that. But this was like a couple years ago. But some of the footage and the way I was talking, well, I still was full blown army language guy. So almost every other word was a swear or three, because boy, it was just the way I was used to communicating, and which is to say I was used to not being able to communicate very clearly in regular conversation in the civilian world, so to speak, which I hate those kinds of distinctions too. Not to say I should hate anything or anything, but that whole military versus civilian, or police versus civilian, and civilian versus yeah, or I don't know. To me, it's all the same now. It's king versus subject. You know what I mean? Or you know, more than versus less than. It's teacher versus student. Whatever, authority figure versus you don't have this authority, so eat it, type of thing. It just so. But all that being said, yeah, I don't have the answers to everything, and I don't know what's going on out there, and I don't know who's who out there. To be quite honest, I don't want to know. I really don't. I don't care who they are. I don't care who they work for, who they talk to or answer to or hang out with. I don't care. I don't care about any of that. None of that's important to me. And really, I don't care about who's in what position out there of whatever authority trying to do this or that at this point, as long as they try and do the right thing in the right way, in line with natural law and for the good of everybody. Which, okay, that brings me to another thing. So, another big issue is all the folks, all the folks that are locked up out there, locked up for victimless crimes where they never caused harm to another living being. Stuff from this drug or that drug, whatever you want to label a drug, to this piece of property, or that that piece of money here or there, or this item here or there, or uh whatever. It really doesn't matter. Or I mean, nowadays they saying because you said something a certain way, or you did, you try to live your life in a certain way. You know what? Now you're gonna get locked up in this thing, this system. So we can literally deprive you of your life energy while we just racking up dollar signs based off your energy dying away in this little box that we got you locked away in, because doesn't matter, because you broke some arbitrary statute some rule or statute. There's something that somebody wrote somewhere that sometimes someone will probably make a statue to this person that wrote all these statutes telling other people their view on life and how they think they should live, while then others then then get paid the same fake ass money to go out and enforce those rules for the master class or whatever, so to speak, or the ones that like to think of themselves as masters, at least behind closed doors. Not that they will to your face or anything, but that's why they got folks that will join up to try and do the right thing in the right way, but then become armed and then become doing the things for the very people that they were hoping to prevent. So now you got all these people armed up with all these weapons and all these ideas and all these concepts put to them by the very people sometimes that they were hoping to prevent getting anywhere near any kind of where they could do damage. So doesn't matter because it was all set up from the beginning and we were all born into it. Because how does one get born into this world? Think about how does one get born into this world and go, this stuff here, wherever it is, this physical stuff, this area is mine. That's mine. Well, I can see for while you're here that you could call an area mine. This is where I live. This is where I physically am right now. This is my area. I'm set up here. I'm living my life. That's fine. What I don't get is how do you get folk that go, this huge, vast expanse of whatever is mine. And since I'm saying it's mine, I'll do with it what I please. I'll pass it on to whoever I please. And it doesn't matter who comes after me, that will have no say in the issue. Doesn't it sound like where we were born? Sound like where I was born. When I got here, it seemed everything had been claimed and owned, including me. When I found out the birth certificate thing and how that was set up as a corporate fiction to be used as a trust, to be traded on the open market to gain money based off of my potentiality, not just mine. Everyone that had a birth certificate that had. I say had because once I realized that the depth of all of that corporate fiction and that I wasn't that name and social security number, that I was indeed more. I lit that bad boy on fire, made a little funny video on that, but I did it very purposely for me. During that time of everything I was looking at and looking into, I really looked into the depths of all these contracts, contract for this, contract for that, and then finding out that, how these different levels and layers of contracts. Read soul contracts if you like. To me, it all made sense that anything in this physical stuff is tied energetically somehow, some way, in some other way to somewhere else or something to that effect. So to me, when I was relearning everything and I was changing everything I was doing and trying to, whatever, get into the whole alchemy of life and nature and energies and how energies work and energy manipulation and this and that and that type of way of thinking. I did. I took my birth certificate and I lit it on fire in the fireplace and then watched the smoke go up the chimney. And it was a whole thing for me because to me it was a release of a lie. It was the realization and the release of a lie that had been created without my knowledge or consent. But by doing that and in doing that, it allowed me to make peace with that and not be angry about that. If that makes sense. Because during looking at all that stuff, I came across all this stuff about, the sovereign man and then the trust, the black card for the trust where you get access to that trust, have unlimited money. And I saw right away this trap right there, the money trap, and this dangling carrot for this last ditch dangling carrot to keep someone in a money system by saying, yeah, if you go through all these steps of this and that and this and that paperwork and you file this trail deep enough, yep, you sure can have it. And to me, that was like, uh-oh, that's a trap. That's just, yeah, you know what? Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. It was something I avoided like the plague, really, after I really looked at it and I started to create some of my own paperwork and documents and this and that. As I was creating those too, actually, something that happened with that, to go right along with that, the birth certificate, this and that, burning that. During this time period, I also came across, well, the whole legal stuff, maritime law, but tracing that back and tracing it back to, so it got added into the Bible in Romans 13, where ecclesiastic law then started to shift into common law and then later it doesn't matter. But the ecclesiastic law part, the part that was, it was God's law, so to speak, but still written from a man's perspective type of thing. But this ecclesiastic deed poll I made, it was a document. I didn't make it. I came across and then changed, modified, printed. I'll get to it. This ecclesiastic deed poll was supposed to be, is supposed, whatever, it doesn't matter. I don't know. It's all fake paperwork games to me, is what it is. But anyway, it was supposed to be the specific thing that was worded in such a way and printed on such a paper and signed in such a way that it could be presented to an agent of authority, whatever's like king's authority or, the government authority, whatever authority, it could be presented. And then they would go, okay, I see that now, like you now fall under this other version of law, this higher version of law, God's law, not a part of ours. We will leave you alone. We'll leave you be. It was that type of thing. So I made this thing. I printed this thing. Put my fake name on that thing. All that stuff. And then along with it goes with the blood over intent, this another crap, whatever. But it was signing that document with the blood of my thumbprint. That was the signature. That was how it was supposed to be signed from what I found and dug into. It wasn't the black ink, the blue ink, the fucking, ooh, watch, sorry about that. Anyway, it was the DNA. It was that red mark, the mark. Make your mark, your blood, life mark on the paper to signify that that was indeed you in the flesh making that agreement. Well, later, I don't know how long, it sat in a folder with a whole bunch of other stuff. All this uniform commercial code stuff that I was looking at, and then make this I made this trust senior scout solutions because whatever. It was my favorite position in the Army was when I was the senior scout for the platoon, wherever I was. That was fun. Anyway, so I named it Senior Scout Solutions after I'd retired, and I figured, maybe I'll do something with it. You know, I didn't know what I was gonna do with myself when I retired. But anyway, during that, looking at all that legal stuff and this and that and this and that, um, yeah, I created this trust, this LLC, Senior Scout Solutions, through the IRS. Was simply just doing it online, and I got the paperwork back with a employer identification number on it, as if it was me going through the system, going through the paperwork, and looking at this and that, and actually engaging with it to try and figure out what the heck was going on with all this BS, so to speak, paperwork, this and that and the other, and this layer and that level, and it's stupid. So anyway, months later, it clicked in me again when I went, I burnt that birth certificate out, and I've done all this, release these contracts or release these things, whatever. I wasn't I wasn't fully aware of stuff until I was, and that wasn't too long ago. But as I become aware, I try and release that stuff back without this, like, seeking vengeance type thing, just letting it go so things can move forward is what I think. But the Ecclesiastic Deed poll, yeah, I was like, man, I made another soul. What I did was, to me, what it felt like, I made another soul contract, but on a deeper level, that I was aware of what I was doing. So I was aware of that document. I was aware of I was aware of all that. I was not aware of the birth certificate. So to me, I traded one for another, which it wasn't. That's another thing. It wasn't to use. Let me make that. Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't really for me to use. It was for me to have and to show when and if I ever needed to show some outside source the depth of the research that I had done to look at things, to come to the understanding I've come to then be able to deal with whatever problems that might come my way now, that in a way I could not before. Now that I get things. So it was to me part of my own research process, and not something I was creating to try and get any sort of gain or any sort of upper hand or out of anything. So so I ended up lighting that bad boy on fire too. That's the moral of that story. So yeah, I burnt that thing up too because I was like, yeah, what am I doing? I'm doing more of the same. I'm continuing. Well, I mean, in this way, by doing this research and even putting in the effort and time and energy into making it, and then actually using my own blood just to touch it with just a little tiny little nick, and doing no crazy, you know, some of that sick blood magic witch sacrifice stuff. I ain't talking about nothing like that. It was just a little tiny drop of blood, like, and actually was research into this crazy ass reality. So cut me a little slack there if you would. But but yeah, I don't even know where I was going with all that, but it was just all that paperwork, yeah. And how did that even all start?
I don't know.
Man. Oh, I was trying to talk. Yeah, I was talking about those videos about back when I was in that state. That was in the same
Yeah,
time
yeah.
frame of me making those videos of like at a church trying to find answers in that. Yeah, this and that, just wow. Like I got them on the other. I had another channel. I got them all as private right now and I got some other ones that just yeah. Like I left one on this channel. That proper introduction to my meltdown. That was it says a year ago, but it was further back than that. I think than a year. It was more than a year, but yeah. If you yeah, the ones before that are even they're that was a mess, is what it was. Not and this is the thing, not in some bad, crazy way. Um, yeah, I, yeah, I don't know. But for Matt, like, yeah, hopefully that video, my contribution to truth, maybe that gave enough of my background. I'm not really sure. Cause yeah, like, there's my thing with the background part. Like, here's what's hard for me is I could tell, probably a bunch of military and army type stories because that's what my life was after high school for my whole adult life until a couple of years ago. So that's really all I had. And the problem is I was so proud of what I was doing, what I thought I was, and in this country and trying to help and do the right thing where now when I look back, uh, I know it. it was for the wrong reasons. It was the wrong way of going about things. And, you know, like really, none of us should have ever been put in a position to be pitted against each other anyway. So, like, it's hard for me to bring up any of that stuff because the thing was, I threw myself into it and was really, really good at what I did. A scout, reconnaissance, which is what, so, yeah, like I think I mentioned that video, it's so weird that, yeah, a job just that deals with observation so heavily and yeah, it was, see, that's the thing, it was all of that stuff was all taught. It's all taught. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I really, that's kind of hard to talk. It's not hard to talk about because you know, because I did some kind of terrible. Yeah, I don't even know how to put it. Because just the act of fighting was terrible. So, and I can't justify it. You know what I mean? I can't justify that the causing hurt because I know the reasons. I know the reasons for it, why it was done now that I didn't know then, that I could not see then. So in that way it is. I mean, I'm ashamed at how badly I was tricked and how not ashamed either, but you know, I got that was a feeling I did have and I had to go through because yeah, I mean it's hard. It's hard to know you've been really literally used, tricked to 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 hurt and control or you know or whatever help others gain over others in life in this life, you know. So that one's tough. It really is because I don't want to glorify anything about myself then, and that's probably why I might come across sounding like when I talk about myself back then when I was like I was before I was a fully connected, thinking, feeling, living man. Back then to me I was just this list of labels in my head, so it wasn't really thinking back, looking back now, it wasn't fully real. It just wasn't because I was disconnected and I didn't know it. But back then I was a son. I went to school, graduated high school, didn't like it much, didn't have, but I got good grades because it was easy. I just didn't like the work. I thought it was stupid. So I did a lot of mischievous stuff all throughout school and messed around and, you know what I mean? So I was one of those kids and then joined the army and then, but, but, but not a bad kid, you know, mischievous, I would say. But that mischievous kind of that bit grew darker though over time in the army to where it did it. I turned pretty into a pretty dark individual just because of the just the totality of experiences is what it came to be. And and so now I don't want to point out anything specific really, yeah, to make it seem like it was like to make it seem like it's a path to follow because that's what yeah that actually scared me pretty good when my son was thinking about it. I didn't want him to follow my footsteps because I by then I had seen how dark that path was. Where prior to that I would have been all for it and I would have said, yeah, yeah, do it. Yeah, come on. But now that you know, now that I see what it was and in that hard life and that hard family life that my family had to live through as well, just because that was the situation we were in. Military life, family, it's really hard. It really is, but we got through it. And I didn't want that for him. I didn't want him to go down that road in life because I know it's not necessary. It's not necessary for anybody to go down any of these roads to where where they're out doing anything that's against any other life or nature itself. Like that's not the way. It's not the path that 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 needs to be taken through life. It's not. And all these lessons too, all these lessons and all this wisdom of life or whatever, it's all available to everybody. They just have to look inside for it, and they don't have to have any of these extra bad experiences in life, to be able to really get, how a lot of folk be like, well, you didn't go through this, so you just don't know. Well, nobody knows what the other's experience is. Nobody knows because nobody lived that experience except for that individual. Like no one has lived mine. I don't pretend to have lived anyone else's. So I know just from that. Everybody everybody has potentially the same amount of good and bad experiences to build off of, and if they don't, their brain is able to manifest those experiences well enough to where it can be felt, just like with a movie, but inside for consideration, for wisdom purposes. Can think of a situation, really look at it, mull it over, feel it deeply. A bad side of life, a bad, a what if, some eventuality of some scenario of that would be scary. Can be played out, looked at, thought about until it's not scary. So that to me proves that folks don't have to go through all this. This doesn't have to be a trial by fire, so to speak, this life, this experience. And just because it has been for someone else, it does not give them the right to say, well, since I went through this, you have to go through this. I got through it, so it's just fine. Even though I know it's wrong now, it's fine for you to go through it because I went through it. That's not right. That's perpetuating the same shit, is what it's doing. And I won't do it anymore. And I decided that as soon as I was able to see the repeating cycles and patterns of shit. It was that quick for me. That's why to me, I figure it's got to be that easy for everyone else out there too. Even if they got to dig a little deeper to get there, because they might have, I know everybody has totally different experiences, totally different upbringings, totally different sets of knowledge that they've inherited or whatever throughout their life here. However, I do know that life is life with two nostrils, a heart, a mind, a spirit, all of us having that same thing, just in different shades with different physical, mental, spiritual abilities, maybe, but infinite potentiality all the way around, I'd say. Well, then I know we can all fix things all together because we're all that. All of us are. And as soon as the folk that have been told over and over and over again that they are not that they should look outward for that because someone else is that, or that there's a savior out there that's that, and that savior might even be coming. Well, that's a belief. What I would say is why not just start right now with just realizing you got this infinite potentiality that we all have. We're all got this in common, and that racism is absolute mind control. How about that? That makes sense. Why? Well, the distinction of different colors and different shades of skin and different groups of people that live in different areas in the world, they have different cultures due to whatever their environment, the way they live, the way they view things, the way they teach. It's great to have all these differences. That's why diversity is such a great thing. But in that diversity, I have to realize we're still all the same. We're all the same with our own individual point of view. And each individual within whatever community of individuals that hold similar views, they all have a similar type of culture that builds over time. Nothing wrong with that as long as there's nothing harmful about that. As long as that culture doesn't push their beliefs. Now, if it's a belief on something, don't push that on another culture. And as long as everybody's living in line with that whole do no harm first, in line with natural law, kind of living with nature in nature, there shouldn't be any fighting. So back to that again. But for real, that's why to me racism is mind control, because these different cultures that do things in different ways or look a bit different, just because the eye says, look, I see something a little bit different than the color I see right here. Different. No, that's the brain that's been tricked to say, label this color, label that color. That's all that is. When it should just be, oh, folks, all these different folks. But that's why you got the media. The media gets so sick of hearing that word, and I don't even watch TV like that. I watch folks' videos. That's what I watch. I don't watch any of that crap out there, except for the clips I see in folks' videos, which is enough for me because oh, I can't believe I used to watch that stuff for so long, and then used to think I would know things because I listened to some jerk off on the TV read a script that about 800 other jerk offs across the world were reading at the same time. I don't know. It's so ridiculous. It's a repeating echo chamber of Operation Mockingbird in full effect. Plus, but who cares? Because I'm sick of hearing those words too. All those same words from the same conspiracies that are all true. Yeah, whatever. Who cares? That's what I'm sick of. Is you know what? I don't mean to get all. I'm starting to get all ranty over here, but it's that hoarding of knowledge, man. The hoarding of knowledge by people that know things that are going on and just won't say things because that little bit of hoarding that knowledge gives them just whatever edge it gives them over whoever else for whatever reason at the expense of the rest. Like, when is that going to stop? I'm wondering. Because it's ridiculous. And you know what? And that gets me to the thing of, what's going on above? What's up with the weather? What's up with all the volcanoes? What's up with all the earthquakes? This, that, and the other. Global warming, global cooling. Well, you can find that we're about to enter another ice age, or you can find that we're about to be living on a giant desert because of all the extra stuff. You know what? You can find either. It doesn't matter because all the sides and stories are set up by the folks. Same folk I would figure that are hoarding the knowledge, maybe that know what's going on. So I figure, you know what? At these times, with all the things going on right now, why not just let everybody know? If something's coming, it's going to do this, that, or the other, cause such this huge, giant catastrophe. Well, why not just let folk know so folk can just work it out themselves how they want to work it out? And I want to say it's because it's not going to happen like that because there's not some giant group of what, like the Trappist one system, right? There's not all these. I'm pretty sure there's not all these crazy big giant things that are about to come crashing down into Earth, so to speak. I just don't think so. Of course, I don't know. And at this point, that's my point. I don't really care. That's not true. Because of course I don't want anything catastrophic to happen. But what I mean is I don't care to be left in the dark anymore is what it is. And I don't think anyone else would want to be either. Of course, you got plenty of folk that say, oh, I wouldn't want to know if something like that was coming. Well, I tend to disagree nowadays. Back before in a past life, a few years ago, I would have said something like, you know what, yeah, I wouldn't want to know you in this thing because I really don't care. And, I wouldn't have believed it anyway. But now, knowing the importance of life, knowing the importance of feeling, knowing the importance of love, once I could fully find love and care within myself, and then learn how to share with others, especially my own family, just so we can all just, in an outside world, and it's how I communicate with folk out in day to day life, which I didn't used to be able to do. I was totally shut off all the time. Didn't want to communicate, is what it was. But um, I would want to know. And I would think other folk out there that don't realize just how deep the mind control goes, the feeling control goes, they might want to know too, just so maybe they can get just enough time to maybe get the clarity of perception they need to really look at this life differently, if only for a short amount of so-called time here. Because in that short amount of so-called time here, they would get the opportunity to feel just as deeply as they possibly could all the good aspects of life and love and family and care and all this stuff. And that doesn't matter how much time there was. It doesn't matter if it's, it depends on how much stuff they'd have to work through to be able to feel these things, but they could at least see these things. But it doesn't matter. That's what I mean. There's no, why we keep messing around, kicking the can down the road with this fake ass construct of time, going off other people's labels of this count or that count, or we'll release some stuff in this date on this year down the road somewhere sometime. We'll let you know why still. This is ridiculous. And it's because us poor lowly folk that get born into this system with a name and number attached, I guess, in the eyes of others, the eyes of others that feel as if they're above us, feel that we don't deserve to know. We don't need to know. And to them, probably, quite frankly, it's none of our fucking business. Why? Because they got all the folk, they got all the belief and all the money, and they got all the folk with all the guns that are trained up to use those guns to protect the money and to protect their interests. So, it's until those folk right there, it's just folk gotta wake up and realize like we need to do things differently in a positive, good way. Like why? Like use our words like a bunch of big boys and girls that can talk like grown-ups and resolve problems and issues of thought and feeling and concept with words alone. And I only say that in that manner, like big boys and girls, because I was such a child running around in an adult body for so long, thinking I knew this and that and the other, while lacking the wisdom of it all the whole way through. So I guess that turned into a bunch of thoughts. I don't know. I'm kind of just trailing off now. Where should I go from there? Anywhere? I mean, no, I'm kind of. That's another thing. For the That's another thing is when I'm talking too, especially like that, and I start to talk about other things. Really, I don't. eh, Heard other people say it before. I'm not trying to, say the same thing, but really, I don't know exactly how things come out until I re-look at it because it does is I'm talking from the saying it's a different place. It's not a place from up here necessarily. It's kind of this further back in from the soul type of, you know what I mean? From the heart, from where like, it doesn't matter what part because that's another thing that's starting to get on my nerves too about all these different parts of this and that. And I talked about it too, the different parts. Don't get me wrong, but it's the way some of this information gets twisted and this and that. So the chakras, right? 7 chakras. That's not. You know what? You don't exist in this chakra. You exist in this chakra. And I'm not trying to point fingers, and I'm not trying to cut down, especially if I don't even listen to what I listen to. I didn't even listen to what's being said, but only read titles or whatever. Sometimes I do that. But I see a lot of these different titles of these different things, and I see that a lot of people keep getting a lot of folk. I have a problem with that word still. Still trying to catch myself, but anyway, yeah, the whole point is, yeah, those 7 chakras, it's just 7, aspects of the same energetic system within all of us that make us up. That's the Kundalini energy. That's the intertwined snake. That's our sexual energy or reproductive energy here in physicality. That's what the chakras are, but it all lines up to a thought and feeling through the heart and in the mind and in the gut, and and throughout this, it's taking those 7 aspects, building a full understanding of those 7 aspects, and then combining those 7 into one resonating central core of energy, so to speak, to operate from, while realizing that those aspects exist, by operating from the point of centering all of them. It doesn't matter, put it wherever you want, put it wherever label you want, doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter as long as it's a full understanding, overstanding is what it comes down to. Doesn't matter which way you go. That's why all the different
Watching.
that's why all the different the allegories work so well in the different systems. Different systems can get you all to the same truth a lot of time. Not all, but like the tarot, the Kabbalah, the religious stories that from all the different religions, the allegory you can find in the different teachings. It all leads to the same truth in the center eventually, if you can get there. What helped me was to take multiple routes through those things and through those teachings. Multiple.